Back into the one winning pod, Ravens History Corner. This week, the Ravens will be taking on the Miami Dolphins, looking to avenge last year's loss in Miami. Something that has been a staple of this matchup for the Ravens has been epic turnovers, and that is what we're going to be looking at this week. So without taking up any further time, let's take a look at my list for the top 5 forced turnovers by the Ravens in this matchup in franchise history. At number 5 on this list, we're going to Week 17 of the 2004 season, and we're going to give some love to fan favorite former linebacker Jarrett Johnson. The Ravens entered this game at 8-7, needing a win and several dominoes to fall to acquire a wild card berth. The 4-11 Miami Dolphins presented a seemingly easy opportunity for the Ravens to take care of their own business, and that was mostly the case in this game. With that said, this game was close with the Ravens up 10-7, but with the Dolphins backed up in their own territory, Miami quarterback Sage Rosenfels attempted a screen pass to running back Ronnie Brown. Johnson, then a little-known second-year player, read the screen perfectly and does his best Jordan Jumpman impression to leap up and tip the ball with his left hand, catch it, and charge into the end zone, putting the Ravens up 17-7. So for number 4 on this list, let's stay right in this game. And what is a list of Ravens turnovers without the greatest of all-time safety himself, Ed Reed? As many Ravens fans likely remember, Reed would win Defensive Player of the Year awards for his efforts this season, and with the Ravens up 20-7, Reed intercepts a Rosenfeld's pass over the middle at midfield and starts making his way, weaving through the mass of players on the field. He runs to the right and breaks a diving tackle at the 37, jukes to the left at the 33, and then darts to his left, having amassed a swarm of Ravens blockers until he's tackled at the 2-yard line. This would set up a 2-yard touchdown run by Jamal Lewis, icing the game for the Ravens. Unfortunately, the tiebreakers would not play in the Ravens' favor, and they would miss out on the 2004 postseason. But this game is still remembered bittersweetly fondly in the years that have passed as a celebration of the great year for this defense. At number 3 on this list, we're going to look at the first career interception of another fan-favorite Raven who played his entire career in Baltimore from 2009 to 2017. The game was in Week 9 of the 2010 season in Baltimore. With the Ravens up 10-7 and not even 2 minutes into the second quarter, Dolphins quarterback Chad Henne rolls out to his right off of play action and floats a ball up the right sideline. It's here at roughly the Miami 38-yard line that second-year cornerback Lardarius Webb jumps the route and does his best Ed Reed impression, weaving all the way to the opposite sideline before he is forced out at the 2-yard line. A memorable first pick for number 21. Numbers 2 and 1 on this list are going to feature 2 of the greatest players in Ravens history, and they're both going to come from the 2008 season. First, in Week 7 of the regular season, the Ravens were coming into Miami in need of a spark. Their 2-0 start had crumbled into 3 losses, the most recent being a blowout in Indianapolis. Through one quarter, things weren't looking terribly inspiring for the Ravens, with the score tied 3-3. Then at the 9-minute mark of the second quarter, the Dolphins quarterback Chad Pennington was pressured by Ravens safety Jim Leonard. Pennington panics and hurries a throw in the flat to the tight end to avoid the sack, only to complete the pass to Terrell Suggs, who sprints untouched 44 yards for the touchdown. The big play would prove to be the spark the Ravens needed, both for the game that the Ravens would go on to win 27-13 and the season going forward, which would end with a deep playoff run for the Ravens. And speaking of that playoff run, I think a lot of you are going to know exactly what play is going to be at the top of this list. The number 1 forced turnover in Ravens history versus the Dolphins was an excellent interception and touchdown return by none other than Ed Reed. In 2008, the Ravens would clinch a wild card spot and travel back to Miami for round 1 of the playoffs. Through 27 minutes of play, the Ravens found themselves in a familiar spot as the game was again tied 3-3. But just as in Week 7, the Ravens would use a turnover to change momentum. At this point in the game, the Dolphins tried to take a deep shot, and Chad Pennington's pass to Ted Ginn Jr. soared inaccurately right to Reed, who fielded the ball almost as a receiver. Reed catches the ball at the Baltimore 45 with his momentum taking him past the 40-yard line, and it's here where he turns upfield and starts his mad dash to the end zone. Reed evades a tackler grabbing for his knees at the Baltimore 40, dodges a tackler at the Miami 45, and it's crazy you couldn't make the rest of this up, and I'm pretty sure that the MCU used the end of this play for inspiration when staging the battle scenes in the Avengers film, and I don't even think that's that much of hyperbole. Almost poetically, Reed finds himself running side by side with Samari Roll and Ray Lewis, with Haloti Ngata shoving Dolphins players to the ground to block for Reed's return, and Terrell Suggs laying the final block on Pennington, with Reed leaping over both of them at the 5-yard line and into the end zone. A spectacular, dramatic play, and it lands as the number 1 forced turnover against Miami for the Baltimore Ravens. And if we're being honest here, this play was probably, I would say almost definitely, a top 5 play in Ed Reed's career. So there you have it. Do you feel there's a play that was left out deserving of this list? Maybe not even necessarily a turnover, but just a big defensive play by the Ravens against the Dolphins? Do you think the Ravens will have a big first turnover against Miami this Sunday? Feel free to leave your replies in the comments below. And as always, remember to subscribe to our YouTube channel and podcast for great Ravens content all season long.